why we, took our time and we vetted every part of this thing that we could. The second piece was we wanted to make sure that we weren't making our campus unsafe, right? We weren't introducing something on our campus that was going to create an issue, which is why we spent a lot of time in his hometown talking to a lot of people. I met with a young man. We looked at his police background. There was nothing in there beside this situation. We got his student conduct record from Knoxville County High School. There was nothing in there that would cause to make you think this is a kid that's a troublemaker, that's going to be someone that's caused violence on campus. It's why it's also why we put in the piece about making sure that we evaluate him, because we may not find anything in the background, but we want to make sure that we have some licensed professionals looking at him and helping us stay on top of it and make sure there's not anything there that we miss. So that's why I reached the decision we did. Once you make the decision that 5 seconds of action that's really poor choice shouldn't preclude that young person an opportunity to go to a university and compete. Once you make that decision, the next thing is, besides the counseling, should there be other consequences? And we range from, he wasn't a student of ours yet, we've never disciplined someone before they were one of our students. Should we do that? To long-term game suspensions. I wasn't comfortable doing that because he wasn't a student. He wasn't necessarily in our program with the structure of discipline and expectations. So we landed on 1 game, and I understand there can be a lot of discussion about that. People have other opinions, and that's fair. But that's where we landed, because I do think it's important that there is a consequence.
So in terms of the 1 game, you say you gotta have counseling. Why not let him go through counseling first and see is he even, what's his situation? What are the licensed professionals, as you talk about, handle it? Well, why already say the 1 game before you've even had him evaluate?
Well, I think John mainly just sent a message that there is going to be a consequence. Now, we may get feedback when he goes through this evaluation that makes us adjust that. It's hard to speculate what that would be.
What message are you really sending when repeatedly punching a woman on the ground and it's the same penalty as targeting? What message are you actually sending to the players? That this is all you get? It's not that big of a deal?
Yeah. That's an interesting way to put it. And that's not how we compared it. We looked at.
That's what it is.
Well, but this is a situation where, this is not a sexual violence issue as defined by law. We talked to a lot of people on campus. I talked to our dean of students, talked to our Title IX coordinator who investigates sexual
It's a man who hit a woman. I mean,
we talked to our president's office, talked to our legal counsel, talked to the conference office. As I said, you can debate that, and that's fair.
So the next player you have who punches a woman, 1 game?
Our dean of students dismissed a guy who was a starter on the #1 team in the country 2 years ago for domestic violence. It was a sexual assault issue, unlike this one. So I think you got to look at the situation for what it is, and you can't necessarily throw a blanket over the cookie cutter.
Scott, but why, to Andy's point here, why try and find the nuance? Like, I'm not doubting the amount of work you did. That's fine. But why even bother with it? Because you know what the reaction is going to be, not just from Andy, but plenty of people. Why even try and discover the nuance? Why to go 1 game, but we could hedge and do something else when the NFL hedged on Ray Rice and that blew up on? Why are you even bothering with any of this? Why are you trying to discover it? Yeah. You owe nothing to this person. Is not on your campus. To your point, you owe nothing to him. At what point, what act is going to draw a penalty to where he would not allow a signee to come on campus, if not this? Why try to discover it?
Well, number one, if it were a domestic sexual assault type issue, if this were a person that had a history, I think that's something you look at. Again, I think you're trying to be fair to the young person, at the same time understand that they made a mistake, and there's got to be consequences for that.
So as long as they get a woman that don't know, it'll be a less serious penalty. I'm just going by what you're saying.
How is this different from a few years ago when you had backup linebacker Chris Hughes arrested and then charged, and he missed 3 games? He suspended for 3 games for hitting 2 family members, compared to a signee who punched a woman on videotape. How is that different, and why is that punishment more severe than, say, this?
Well, I do think there's a different level. I think Commissioner Sankey mentioned this the other day when he was talking about the sexual misconduct. Well, I think there's a different expectation for someone who's been on a college campus and is in the environment and the structure of what we expect.
So your expectation of signees are completely different from when they arrive on campus?
Well, we certainly have a different way to monitor and set a level of expectation.
Scott, and it clearly looks like that this is a 5-star recruit. He can rush the passer. That's why he's in school. That's why he's been allowed. That's basically what it comes down to. And my question is, you guys could have very easily said, look, we're not going to prevent you from going to school, but you can go somewhere else. You're just not going here. Was there a thought of that? Was that ever a thought?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, we had that conversation. I don't know what that accomplishes. If the young person is going to go to school and he wants to go to our school.
Well, it allows you to stand up and have, this is what we're doing. We're not putting up with this. It gives you you're making a stance. That's what was my point with the fact that it really looks like this is a 5-star recruit, a guy that can clearly help you, a guy that can rush the passer. And if he was a 2-star recruit, would it be the same thing?
I can't answer that question. That's speculative.
Doesn't it accomplish, though, the message that this is unacceptable in the Southeastern Conference and Mississippi State? You say, what does it accomplish by saying you can't play here? Doesn't it accomplish the clear standard that that's an unacceptable behavior? You will not be allowed to play football at our university, or even more broadly in the Southeastern Conference, if you have that behavior.
Right.
And maybe that does prevent the next kid from doing it.
I go back to what Greg said the other day, though, which is 5 seconds of a bad decision that have to be caught on videotape when you're 16 or 17. Does that change the trajectory?
It only takes 5 seconds to murder somebody too, so let's get over 5 seconds. I mean,
But that can't happen, Andy.
But to his point, yeah, come on now.
Yeah. Scott, I was at Georgia, covering Georgia, still covering Georgia, when Jonathan Taylor happened. He goes to Alabama, it happens again. Most of the time, when somebody does something like this, not one thing. What's your confidence level that A, that is the only time something like that has happened, and B, it won't happen again on campus?
Well, we don't have evidence of it having happened at the time. You meet the young man and you come away with the idea that this is a pretty docile young man. But again, that's where, to me, the evaluation of a licensed professional, not me, somebody who knows how to read these behaviors, that's where that comes into play.
Scott, what are the procedures for something like this for a student who's just any Mississippi State student? I mean, if he was not a football player, would Mississippi State have enrolled him if there was a video viral of a incoming student punching multiple times?
Well, I'll say this, athletics had nothing to do with the enrollment process.
But for any other student, would?
So I'm saying, athletics in this case did not make any decision related to enrollment. Our decision was based on football participation.
So the suspension was the only purview y'all had, correct?
Sir.
So Monday, Ben, maybe with more news in Dallas. So the suspension was the only purview y'all
That in the counseling.
Okay.
Because the university, to your point, John, the university would not have, after he'd been accepted, would not have a legal way to tell him he could not enroll, is my understanding. And that's why we had conversation with the registrar's office. We were not part of the decision-making process there.
I know you kind of touched on this briefly a little bit, and a lot of people on Twitter have already said the suspension feels hollow for a true freshman coming in for a 1-game suspension in South Alabama. Who knows how much he would have actually played anyways.
You're assuming he's going to play this year.
Well, either way, it's still just.
well, you could have said he wasn't.
Still just a 1-game suspension. What are your thoughts to people saying, this is really kind of a hollow deal, just kind of like what Andy said. It wasn't really a true suspension.
I understand different people can have different opinions.
Scott, the university's seriously put itself in a precarious position right here. If he goes and does something again, whoever he does something to could easily sue the university, correct? because the university had knowingly put a guy with a history of this on their campus. I mean, was that something that was thought of?
That was thought of, yes.
So,
And it's why the counseling will be a piece of this.
How much of this is the thought that people do deserve second chances? Their life doesn't end at 17 years old.
I think that's, to me, that's where the fairness comes in. Is this a young person who deserves to be treated in such a way where they still have the opportunity? Again, I understand the debate.
Under Dan Mullen's watch, with Chris Hughes specifically, domestic violence charge, he was sitting in a jail cell during the season opener. Then he was arrested later, a couple years later. That showed a pattern of behavior. Knowing Dan Mullen has seen these things up close, did that ever come into play? Knowing what he has seen himself while at Mississippi State?
You know, Brandon, I mean, be careful speaking generalities. I think I can name on one, maybe take more than one hand. Dan's been here now 7 or 8 years. The number of these type situations, and you're dealing with, we all know you're dealing with, a lot of young people where this can happen. But I'll be honest, Dan and I had some limited conversations on this. Dan and I do not have extensive conversations about this matter. I looked to the registrar's office, being a student, Title IX, university lawyers, and then the professionals who deal with these kind of behaviors for their input.
Scott, you said fairness has to come into it. Greg told us 2 days ago that part of the reason the player discipline rule is not going to get expanded to incoming freshmen is because access to legal records obviously is going to be an issue with minors. How fair is it that he gets treated differently, Jeffery Simmons, than a transfer? Because clearly he has a legal issue. It's there for the world to see. And I think we'd all agree, and you'd probably agree too, he would not be admitted if he was transferring in because of that specific rule.
I was actually on the student misconduct committee. I think it would be a question mark.
This wouldn't fall under it. It's not domestic, right?
If you look at the triggers that are in the due diligence, he has 2 misdemeanors, simple assault and disturbing the peace. I don't know that it's questionable. I've looked at that 2 or 3 times going through this process. I think it's questionable if he were a transfer. He's not a transfer. Greg pointed out there's a different expectation for someone who has kind of been out on their own in a college environment versus someone who has never left home.
How much of a consideration is it that if you cut him loose, somebody picks him up tomorrow? That's what the folks in Oklahoma said about Joe Mixon. I'm assuming you guys have to consider that fact too.
I think that thought crosses your mind.
For instance, I mean, if you had assurances, there was some SEC rule or some NCAA rule that if you didn't take them, nobody else would take them, would you then not take them?
It's hard to answer that because we don't have that rule, John, but again, to Andy's point, I think you consider those things.
Scott, what was the president on this? How much was?
We had several conversations.
You yourself did?
Mm-hmm. And others were part of that process.
When you say others, like senior women's administrators, women's
Life
groups
skills
on
coordinator,
campus?
dean of students, Title IX coordinator, counsel's office.
Did you talk to any specifically any women on campus who had seen this tape and were really upset, either upset or leery of bringing them on campus?
I talked to several women. I don't know that I talked to anybody that fit the description you just said.
It said that.
The sense was this was a parking lot fight. We got out of control, and again, which is why it's not, he's not being charged with domestic violence or sexual assault. You can't. That doesn't make it okay. But I think there's. It makes it a unique situation, a unique case.
Scott, these things never happen in a vacuum. They always happen in the context